Welcome back to a very special episode of When It Matters. I'm here with both Stephanie Marshall and Aaron Patrick. And if you haven't watched their individual episodes, definitely go and do that afterwards. We are having a quick 15-minute power podcast episode, if we can do it in 15 minutes, on basically taking the accounting profession and taking it to this kind of new stratospheric height and making it far more than just numbers. Both of you really exemplify that. Best-selling author, you've both got incredible podcasts, you've both built communities. What's your advice for somebody watching this now who's an accountant right now or looking to get into the profession but is very ambitious and wants to take it to this kind of next level? Let's get into it.
Me first. Okay, so I think for me, you don't have to follow the mainstream crowd. Like what everyone else is doing, you don't have to follow. You get to build your business your way. If you're a business owner and you're looking to build your own practice or run your own practice, you get to have the flexibility. You get to close in the summer if you want to. You get to work only school hours. You don't have to follow the trend. And you can look outside of our industry and see what other business owners are doing in other industries and apply that to ours. That's where most of my success has come from.
Can you give an example of something? We had a really good one in our podcast, actually, when you talked about the data checklist from school that you take. Yeah, do you have any examples that you can share?
Yeah, so that one is... whenever there's a sticking point, I'll look for something in an external field. So at school, when you have children, you get like a data sheet once a year that says date of birth, religion, phone numbers, email addresses, and you have to sign it to say that everything is still the same. Now, AML, with the ICB, we have to do our AML checks every year. I was like, oh, I could do this. I could create, so now I have a custom GPT that goes in when the date comes up on the task in my CRM, and that will send a data sheet automatically to the client, encrypted with a password, so all the data's secure, and ask them to check and sign it off. So my AML is done 90% automatically.
I love that. It's so clever. Yeah. Right.
So I think if you think back to what it was Jeremy Hunt one too, who says, don't become an accountant because AI is going to take all our jobs and we don't worry about it now and it's all over, right? Like we go from that. I think we've just got to take that. What he's saying is true. There is going to be AI included there, but it's not going to take our jobs. And I think what we've got to do for people who are looking to come into the industry is understand that it's not just about the putting a VAT return together anymore. We're going to have tools that's going to help us do that and help us actually deliver that. What it is, and you brought it up in ours, it's empathy, right? So as long as you've got that empathy for small businesses, as long as you've got that want to go out there and help them, then this is the perfect profession for you to go for. And I think because of the advantation of and all the advances that we've had with AI, I think we're getting different types of people coming into the industry now. It's not just your typical standard, accountant model that we've seen, right? Now we're getting amazing accountants, bookkeepers, business advisors starting to come into the profession. And actually, we're getting people who can do a lot more and help a lot more because they're getting to be able to talk to different types of businesses and understand different niches. And, this is the perfect time to come in. I think we've got to take the technology and we've got to understand it and embrace it, but we've got to use that to be able to bring even better people into our industry. And I think overall our industry is going to go from strength to strength because of it.
Massively. Actually, Ryan Percy, who we had on the pod, said this is the best time ever to set up your own accountant practice, and I think you guys really exemplify that. And in terms of building a personal brand, both of you have incredible personal brands. They're so distinctive. I can picture your colours definitely in my head, and the QuickBooks chat, Ask the Accountant, it's so distinctive and personal. What's your advice about building a personal brand, and how did you guys go about building these really distinctive kind of identities?
I copied him. No, again, it's just doing things your way. Your personal brand needs to be you and needs to work to your strengths. And mine is the unicorn colours because, again, I am not traditional in any sense of the word, and I really wanted to stand out as much as possible for being me and for doing things slightly differently. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want your personal brand to be, you can be. If you want to talk on stage, the option's there. If you want a podcast, the option's there. If you want to do only written stuff and do blogs or newspaper articles, the option's there too. You have to play to your strengths.
That's interesting, rather than thinking about what the market wants. That's a really good lesson. Do you feel the same, Aaron?
Yeah, 100%. But I think my biggest learning, and I made mistakes, we've all made mistakes like that. The reason we're sat here today is because we made mistakes, and now that we've found ways to improve on them and get a chance to talk about them, right? So my first mistake was my personal brand was this random company called Apple Core Productions, which meant nothing to anyone, right? And I was trying to get penetration, I was trying to get people to listen to me. And it wasn't until I kind of looked back at all of the media I was consuming, and I looked at, well, why was I gravitating to that creator or that creator? Well, that's because their personal brand and their brand was exactly what I was looking for. And when that clicked and I had the ability to kind of reset and start again, that's where the QuickBooks chap comes along, because it does what it says on the tin, right? Ron Seal does what it says on the tin. If you can try and find a way to get your brand to be about what you are and what it is, you'll see that you'll get so much more bite into it going forward. And that was such a big turning point for me. And at the beginning I was just putting a piece of content, and I had this amazing app that would just post to all the different social media outlets there was, and I just go post, done. But now I've got these different channels, and each channel has a different community and a different want and a different need, and suddenly I'm starting to be much more strategic in the way that it is. And the reason I've had to build these personal brands is because I want to tell a particular story, or I want to talk to a particular audience, and one brand doesn't necessarily speak to all the people there, right? So what you'll do is you'll evolve over time, you'll build that, you'll find that crowd that wants to listen, and you'll adapt, and you'll go from there. So make the mistakes at the beginning, because we're all going to make mistakes, you know what they say, your first bit of content is always the worst bit of content, and just evolve it from there. As long as you're critical with it, and we're accountants, we love numbers, we love looking at graphs, we love looking at all that sort of stuff. So every social media platform out there has these graphs and all this amazing analytical data. You'll be obsessed with it, and that's how you'll go from strength to strength to strength. And once you've got that community, your personal brand will go with it.
I love that. And we talked a little bit, I think, in our episode, Aaron, about how a lot of accountancy firms want to go from being compliance-based to being advisory. And of course, you're an amazing example of that, as well, Stephanie. When it comes to building a brand, what would you put in your kind of like starter kit? I'm thinking, okay, I'm a traditional accounting firm. I want to really level up, have more of a presence online, and upscale my service from just compliance to advisory. I need to amplify my brand. How do I do that? What would be your kind of, in your starter kit?
Let me go first. So for me, I had this awful blue and grey logo when I first started with ABCS UK, because I wanted to look professional, and I wanted to look not even traditional, but I wanted to look corporate, and I wanted to look professional, and I am professionally unprofessional. That is me, that is my brand. I am a human first accountancy firm, bookkeeping firm. As a human, I am the least professional person you'll ever meet in your life. So I was giving really mixed messages, because I was there was this very corporate blue and silver. You could have walked off somewhere in London, like top 4 accountancy firm. And then you'd come to me and get to know me, and I'd have these great relationships with clients, and the service they were getting and the messaging I was giving out were two completely different things.
That's interesting.
So I think the first thing you need to do is know where you are and know what you want your brand to be. I remember researching colour psychology and what all the different colours meant in my logo, because I wanted to show trustworthiness, and I think it finds you, and it's okay if it changes slightly. Don't revamp every 6 months, but I think it's okay that it evolves and it changes as you do.
Yeah, and I think you got to own it as well. I think that's one thing we learned at the beginning was we were putting together a brand kit, and we were trying to figure it out, and we were making mistakes, as I've already said, but we didn't almost believe it ourselves. We didn't 100% understand what that, and we were confused ourselves. Right, we've got this piece of content. Does it belong on this brand or that brand or this brand? And especially when you start making multiple brands, it becomes even more of a headache, right? And you've just got to own that. You've got to understand that that's the community you're trying to talk to. That's the message you're trying to put out there, and that's that's what that piece of content's for. And I think with us, one of the biggest turning points with our newest brand we put together, which is Elevate Media, it's called. It's like a media company doing podcasts and stuff like that. And I challenged producer Lizzie. I was like, look, can you tell, it was when we were at the Tim for the cool locations, can you tell Tim in 30 seconds or less what it is that you want this company to be? And that completely threw her. She got flustered and everything else, as you would do, because it was completely off the cuff. And now that started to put our brand to what we want that to be. We've gone back to basics. We've used that that problem there of that. we can't even tell ourselves, like we can't tell friends what this means and what this company's for, right? So if we can't tell them, how can we tell the rest of the world? So going back to basics, using that opportunity, use soundboards, talk to people in your family, talk to your friends, go to your parents or whatever it's going to be. Like try and use tools of the trade. Try and, if you can own it and you can explain it to those people, then you can start building that brand from there. And you've got to start in the basics. And if you've got a really muddled one like you started off with, it's never gonna grow, right? So use that opportunity at the very beginning, and it'll fly from there.
Excellent words of wisdom. And my penultimate question is, how do you guys are both so busy, you have so many, I don't want to use the word side hustles because they're not even, are they? They're like, full-time endeavours. How do you balance your kind of core roots of being, incredible, caring, empathetic accountancy practice owners with all of the other things that you have going on at the same time?
I mean, for me, the first thing you have to focus on is the bit that brings the money in. So obviously the podcast, the book and the community are very small parts. They all generate revenue, but they're all much smaller. You focus on the main thing and the other things can come in. My ecosystem now, obviously there's the 4 parts, and some months my focus is more on the community and some months my focus is more on the book. And it's making sure, especially if we're talking content creating and things like that, is to bulk do it all in bulk, get 6 or 8 weeks done. Because then that's done and you can then look at the next thing. But your main focus has to be what brings in the revenue.
That's very true.
I wish I took that advice earlier. I'm in a much better position. No, for me, it's making sure each one of those individual side hustles, hats, whatever you want to call them, they have the same values and the same core values. We have this idea, don't we, that we want to build this business and everything else, but sometimes we forget to look at exactly what the fundamental part of that business is. Like, what are your core values? And for me, it's really important that some of those overlap. So some of those core values are in individual individual business strands and in individual areas and individual verticals. And as long as the base of those core values are similar for each one, that makes you laser focused. And then each one of them, depending on what that vertical is or what that piece of content's for or what that's for, you'd have different core values to kind of work with that industry and work with that type of business or vertical, whatever it's going to be. But as long as you've got those core values in each and every one, it's actually really easy then. Just take one hat, put the other one on, take one hat, put on the other one, because you're working with the same. And then you'll gravitate the same sort of people for each one, because you're going to have different team members probably over those and everything else. But as long as you keep that consistent core value from business to business to business, that's when you're able to have that opportunity to really build that, that group, that ecosystem, because they're all complementing one another from now on in.
I love that. And that kind of goes back to when you're building your brand, starting with your values, then how to pitch your brand in 30 seconds, and then your colours and logo and everything like that. I think that's such a good lesson. And my last question is, obviously on the pod, we're real champions of accountants, bookkeepers, and those adjacent who are doing things differently. Can you guys each shout out or spotlight someone who you think is doing some really cool work in this space?
I think the obvious one is Lucy Cohen at Mazuma. She is the complete opposite end of the spectrum to my practice, but she is incredible and having incredible success doing it her way, and that's what I think is the key to this.
Yeah, shout out to Lucy. Mine's #AuditAmy. She's changing the way that audit's been done, actually bringing it into something that, as a practice, I'm not scared about my clients needing to do audits now. I know I've got a person in the industry who gets what our pain points are, gets what our issues are, gets what our clients' problems are going to be. And yeah, she's really championing that. She's got her own podcast as well, so you'll have another podcast person to talk to. But yeah, #AuditAmy is the one I put forward.
Yeah, shout out Amy and Lucy. Yeah, 2 great recommendations. Guys, thank you so much. I've loved this segment. We managed to do it in 15 minutes somehow. But Aaron and Stephanie, thank you so much.